Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the co-feature race at Oaklawn Park on Rebel Stakes Saturday has Kentucky Oaks implications. Oaks qualifying points available in the Grade 3 Honeybee, race number 10, mile and a 16th. It's a 300 grander. Let's take a look at this field. It's a full field. I think it's a competitive race. I think you have to look for a price. No disrespect to our morning line favorite, the number 3 Grand Love, who was the pace setter last time out in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and obviously has ability for Mr. Rosario and Mr. Asmussen.
Yeah, and her speed might play in this race too, Dan. It's not that difficult to make a case for Grand Love in here. Like you, I thought it was a more competitive race than just to, decide who the favorites are going to be and take them. Not that I thought that there were, a bunch of super interesting long shots in here. But I don't know if you have to settle for the favorite. Grand Love also does have something to prove on a stretch out.
Key handicapping component for this race might very well be the pace. Thankfully, we have Timeform US to help us out with the Timeform US pace projector. And Timeform US is expecting a fast pace. Grand Love, we know, is going to be forwardly placed. The one effortlessly elegant, I guess if she breaks, stretching out from the rail is going to be close to the pace. Other than that, there are some horses with good tactical speed. I'm not sure they're exactly blazers. The pace should be solid.
Yeah, I think the pace will be solid too. Grand Love, I think it's pretty clear that she's going to go for the lead in this race unless Asmussen, for some reason, is going to decide to try to teach her to rate here off the layoff. The one, to me, almost has to go in this race, Dan, stretching out from the rail after breaking her maiden wire to wire last time. I mean, she's got to show speed from the inside here.
Let's take a look at the number 1. Effortlessly elegant, living up to her name and only her second lifetime start. This over a muddy track. Now, who did she beat? Well, she beat 5 first-time starters. I'm not exactly sure if this was a strong field, but boy, did she look good doing it. And I think she ran a lot better than it looked in her career debut at Churchill Downs in November. She's going to be breaking from the rail, and I'm assuming, as you are, that she's going.
Yeah, she's got to go in this race. We'll see if she gets better as the distances get longer. There's a lot of, she's a Liam's Map Dan out of an Uncle Mo mare, but there's a lot of sprint on the dam side of this pedigree. She was super unlucky in her career debut at Churchill. She was clearly best in that race, and nothing worked out for her before she fell short. Came back last time, very easy win. It's not a super fast race, but it feels like there's more in the tank.
And she goes out for Norm Cassie, who has been on absolute fire at the Oaklawn meet. The number 2, Towhead, is a lot more experienced than many of these. She's already run 9 times. She's already won 3 times. This was a good effort. First level allowance for trainer Michael Maker last time out, going a mile and a 16th. And she was in the pocket most of the way and on hold on the far turn. She had to angle out to split horses. She does find the seam and she does run the leaders down. She's very, very professional, and she's tactical enough to work out a good trip in the second flight or so.
Yeah, all those things are true. It was nice to see her break through with a bit of a faster race here too, Dan. She wins easily at the end off of a really good trip in that race. She also ran really well breaking her maiden 2 starts back, where she took pressure on the lead and just sort of kept going. She's good on turf. She's good on dirt. She's back in a spot here while she's up in class where maybe she gets a little bit overlooked again and you get a bit of a fair price on her in this race. I thought she was a contender.
The 3 is Grand Love, a daughter of Super Sire Gunrunner and a speedy debut winner last summer at Saratoga, where she went right to the front and coasted on home despite popping back to her left lead late. They ran her in the Pocahontas. She was on the lead that day, stretching out, and she was the beaten favorite. And the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, let's not hold that against her. She was part of a very fast pace, and she ended up tiring. She's bred to go long by Gunrunner, a half to grade 1 router Malibu Prayer, a half to grade 2 router Valid, but they got to do it.
Yeah, she's got to prove it going long. I'm with you that in the Breeders' Cup last time, it was a pretty fast pace that she was cutting in there. It's worth pointing out that the horses that finished second and I think 4th or 5th were also really close to that pace and got the better of this filly late in there. She also went, I thought, a solid pace in that Pocahontas, but just wasn't good enough to hold on. I mean, I don't know, Dan. She's the morning line favorite in this race. She can wire this field for sure. If she does wind up going off the favorite, I'm betting somebody else.
The number 4, Gambling Girl, is a New York bred stakes winner who is already proven against Open Company up in New York for trainer Todd Pletcher. She was a close third in the grade 2 Demoiselle, won by her stablemate Julia Shining. Last time out in the Busanda, going a mile and an 1/8. We see Gambling Girl. It's a short field. She's trying to rally from out of it, and she'll end up finishing second to the Chad Brown trained favorite, Occult. It looks like she's slowly moving forward with each start. She might have the right running style for this race, and we know distance is no obstacle.
Right. All those things are true. Now she's just got to go out there and run a fast race, Dan. She runs fine in here. She's only second best in a race that there was, it's a short field anyway. One of the other contenders in this race was a total no-show, and she just winds up getting second in there. I also felt like, she ran fine in the Demoiselle 2 starts back, but another race where the trip was there for her. She had every chance through the stretch. She wasn't good enough at the end, and it was a super slow race. Listen, as well as she's running those last 2 stakes races, this is tougher.
I wonder if the number 5, Condensation, a daughter of Frosted, is your quintessential last time was the time. She had trouble 3 starts back in that sprint at the fairgrounds. She ran pretty well that day, and then she was beaten by a hot horse sprinting at Oaklawn. They stretched her out around 2 turns last time. She caught a wet track. She got a very nice ride from Rafael Bejarano, who put her on the lead and got her settled on the backstretch. They came to her early entering the turn. She shrugged off the first wave of challengers, and as you see, she's going to duck out a little bit late, maybe getting a little bit fatigued.
Yeah, maybe getting a little tired, but she does hold on. And you're right that they challenged her more than once in this race. It was a good performance, certainly a step in the right direction. And it happened on a stretch out, which is also a good thing for her, Dan. Basically run well in all of her starts, but another horse in a way tougher spot here in a race where she probably can't make the lead in all 4 of her wins. She was right there with the pace from start to finish.
And she was once claimed for $50,000 in her second lifetime start. She appears to be a little bit better than that, but she's going to be taking a big step up in class. Take Charge Brianna finished 4th last time out for Mr. Lucas and the Martha Washington. She appears to have a good running style for this race if the pace is fast, but she's been beaten by several of these already.
Yeah, it's a real problem for her, Dan. Lucas, will press on here with another stakes race for her, and just see if maybe she can finally break through with a race that's going to make her competitive. That hasn't happened in her 2 most recent starts here at Oaklawn around 2 turns. Her pedigree says longer is better. Her form says shorter is better.
The 7 is Wet Paint. Everybody's talking about Brad Cox's good 3-year-old Colts. Here's a filly that might be taking Brad on his way to the Kentucky Oaks after beating 4 of these same rivals in the Martha Washington. This was her first stakes appearance, and she ran pretty well. It's not like this pace was very fast over this wet, fast track. They got the jump on her turning for home. She runs them down.
Yeah, I like the way that she finishes this race off more than anything else. You're right that the pace wasn't fast, but it was competitive. And all in all, Wet Paint got a perfect trip and ride from Pratt in this race, just sort of sitting off the leaders, saving ground the entire way, a perfect in-out to the stretch, and then just steamrolls them late. I like the way that she finished. I also like the way that she finished off the only other dirt start in her career when she broke her maiden. So I do think the talent's there. There's probably, a lot of room for her to take even more steps forward along the way, Dan. But it feels like she's going to get bet again in this race. And, she's 2 for 2 over wet tracks. Will she get a wet track on Saturday?
I agree with you. I think she's oozing with upside potential. She might end up the favorite in this race. I think it's a good line. She'll either be favorite or second choice. You have to decide whether that's worth it, but I do think she's got a ton of upside. Defining Purpose was 3rd in the race we just showed you. That was the Martha Washington. Now, she was part of that competitive pace before tiring to finish 3rd. Maybe she didn't care for the wet track. She was a stakes winner 2 back at Remington Park going a mile, and I think they'll utilize the more patient tactics that worked so well for her in that spot.
Yeah, I wonder if they will too. I feel like that would probably benefit them to sort of give her a trip more like that one, where she just sat behind the leaders and won that race. I thought really impressively, Dan, over a couple of horses who were back in this race. Last time, I kind of feel like maybe they made a little bit of a mistake there. She went forward early. It just kind of felt like her rider didn't want her on the lead. He let horses move up to challenge her. She wound up between horses contesting it into the stretch there. And she actually held on to the lead down past the 16th pole before she finally gave it in. I didn't like the ride she got last time. I think she can rebound.
Fleur Giroux picks up the mount on the 9. Boss Lady Bailey, who was second to Towhead last time out in that first level allowance back in January. Another horse with a closing style that fits the race flow, but is yet to really truly run one of those real fast races and is going to get a class test stepping up.
Yeah, I didn't think she had some kind of excuse last time. To me, Towhead was just better than her in that race. Her prior form didn't really do a lot for me. I thought the first time they stretched around the Pocahontas, she ran fine in there. I didn't think it was, an ideal trip for her, but I also didn't feel like she had some kind of big excuse.
The number 10 is Do You Want to Dance? And she's an Oklahoma bred that beat fellow state breds in her first 3 races, 2 of them stakes. She got the acid test last time out in the trapeze. She was beaten by Olivia Twist, who's also in this field. Barn change since that start, now with Dallas Stewart.
Yeah, kind of feels like she was found out a little bit last time in the trapeze stakes, and this race is way tougher than that one.
Olivia Twist, the horse that beat her in the trapeze, is a very nice pedigree. She's by M. Shawish. She's a half to Skippy Longstocking, a multiple grade 3 stakes winner going long. But after the trapeze, they ran her in the Martha Washington, and she was the pace setter, and she wound up tiring very badly in the stretch. Again, maybe she didn't care for the wet track, but now there seems to be more questions than answers.
Yeah, that's fair enough. If you want to give her the wet track excuse last time on the lead, taking pressure from the second and third place finishers there and just sort of giving it up through the stretch, maybe that's enough of an excuse, Dan. If nothing else, if you want to keep the faith and sort of base it off of her 3 fast track races, which are all good, you're going to get a way better price this time.
The number 12 Taxed I Needed last time out in the Martha Washington. We saw the video of that race. It looked like she was home free after pushing the early pace 3 wide. She was one run down in the stretch by wet paint, and now she has to overcome a very tough outside post position.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if she can back up that Martha Washington. Dan, 2 starts back, she just got absolutely dusted by Defining Purpose coming to the stretch last time. She managed to fight that horse off, put her away late, and then just get nailed by wet paint at the end of that race. She obviously ran a lot better last time. We'll see if she can do it again.
Let's take a look at our top selections for our Kentucky Oaks qualifying points race at Oaklawn on Saturday. You're going with Defining Purpose right back to her, and I understand what you're saying. She was really pushing that pace. You didn't like the ride. I think she can get a better trip in here, and I think she's still unexposed. You draw a line through that race, she's done nothing but good things.
Yeah, that's how I looked at her too, Dan. And she was even money last time, and it feels like she might even be 3rd or 4th choice in this race. And I'd be willing to give her a chance to rebound here. I personally don't know that I think she's, like one of the top 3-year-old fillies, but she's pretty good. I'm a little worried that she goes without Lasix again, because I think that's another thing that you have to sort of take into account. But she's going to be a way better price here. I'm going to go 8-7.
I think the morning light favorites have questions. The 3 and the 7, you mentioned that wet paint seems to like wet tracks. We have the distance question for the 3 as she makes her first start of the year. I want 2 price horses. Maybe last time was the time for condensation. I'm hoping that she can rally from off of the pace. She did run well from off of it. 3 starts back sprinting at the fairgrounds. I think Towhead is just a really honest, solid horse that can work out a good trip. I think both will be decent prices. 8-7-1-3 for Mike, 5-2-1-7 for me in the Honeybee Grade 3, 300,000. Oaks points on the line. Good luck.